$3 supporters at Patreon and Subscribestar get to ask me anything, and $5 supporters can also give me a shout-out. They asked a lot of questions last month, so I'll answer them, as I sometimes do, in 2 videos, one answering questions from Patreon, and the other from Subscribestar. Although this time it'll actually be 3 videos, since Darth Vega's question, "What is the libertarian position on insider trading?" is comprehensive enough to warrant its own video, so stay tuned for that. The Executioner asks, have you read Defending the Undefendable by Walter Block? If so, do you agree with his position on selling organs? I have the book, but I haven't read all of it, so I haven't read the part you're talking about. But earlier this year, he posted a good article on it for the Foundation for Economic Education. He covers all the lines we've been given. It's unfair because the rich can afford all the organs, thieves would rob people of their organs, and you'd wake up in a bathtub full of ice, and so on. And he points out the very thing I pointed out in so many other cases. There is yet one more major flaw with the present prohibition. What it says, in effect, is that one and the same activity, namely transferring an organ from one person to another, is entirely within the law as long as no money changes hands. But when this dire, evil act of commerce occurs, then the forces of law and order should swoop down and arrest the miscreants. So yes, I agree with Block, and I'd also remind you that I covered exactly that subject in How to Argue for Universal Health Care. I pointed to countries where organ sales were legal, how plentiful organs were, what happened when they became illegal, and how scarce they became after this. And I also pointed out that, shamefully, there have been no major studies published in prominent medical journals of the effects of these bans on donors or patients. I also pointed out how doctors, hospitals, everyone, even in countries with socialized medicine, get to profit from an organ transplant except the donor. And I said, understand? Most of the names on those waiting lists are future corpses, people who have families that will grieve for them, and may even depend on them for part or most of their livelihood. And so, to avoid exploiting the poor, and to avoid the evils of profit, you put grieving families in financial hardship while the corpses of those needing transplants pile higher and higher. Don't you dare call libertarians heartless if you take this position. And my position on it hasn't changed one iota since then. And Sid Padmanabhan asks, one argument from the left that they repeat ad nauseum is the claim that the average American can't afford a $400 emergency. And it's usually made when they're arguing about the supposed failures of capitalism or the supposed necessity of a welfare state. First of all, is this even true? And second, does it have the implications they think it does? I looked around and found a lot of people who made this claim, but none of whom cited the source, so I don't know where it comes from or how accurate it is. $400 can be a pretty big hit for a lot of people if you're not expecting it. On the other hand, it's not that much to save up for over time. Let's assume the figure is accurate. What's the source of the problem? It's the atrociously low savings rate we have in this country. And why are savings rates low? It can only mean one thing. Interest rates are too low. Saving money is a sacrifice, especially for the poor. It means they'll have to give up $400 worth of stuff to do it. But a higher interest rate would make it more beneficial for them to do so. When government doesn't monkey around with interest rates, even the poor in capitalist countries have pretty good savings. So, yes, this is the result of the Fed pushing interest rates to the floor for decades, and for the Keynesian idea, which not only pervades our economic policy, but also what the public is indoctrinated to believe, that savings is bad, and we need to spend to keep the economy going. Here's a question to ask the next person who gives you that figure. Are they against so-called austerity measures people like Paul Krugman keep complaining about? That's basically their word for balancing budgets and lowering taxes. And if they're against that, just point out how they're being hypocritical idiots. So that's it for the Patreon questions. There are even more on Subscribestar, so stay tuned for those, as well as the insider trading video. Until then, comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. and go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay strong and be free.